Currently we're walking up to Tel Dan, major water source area of the Jordan. And as we come across, you can see it's a very wooded area. And kind of neat, we're on a trail walking through. I'm just gonna, it's a very beautiful area. You can see the trees and the brush overhead. And we just passed a major water source. So it looked more like a river than the Jordan River did. We're coming through. And we were told this is just a little bit of a hike, but I just wanted to show what this area looked like compared to the differences in the other areas that we were that were very dry. And this is very lush and green. It looks like kind of the woods of just a regular old forest. Very lush. Anyway, as soon as we get to the site, I'll record more information. But you can see, and we're going to stop right up here as we walk along. Where we are right now is in the Tel Dan, and what I am looking at is one of the oldest gates found yet. It's about 3,500 years old, 3,500 years old, and it was built probably around the time of Abraham, mentioned in Genesis 14. And we are at the foothills of Mount Hermon, above the Hula Basin. And if you can see this area here, this is the area. And in this direction here, you can see the mountain in that background. That's Mount Hermon. So we're at the base of Mount Hermon. And this area is the foothills of the area there that we have, the Golan Heights. And as we come around here, this is an interesting area. This is actually one of the four headwaters of the Jordan River, this location. You don't see them here, but it's down lower in the valley. And this is the road that we took up to get here. And this area, city of Dan, was mentioned as Lachish in Judges 18, verses 11 to 28, and it was turned to Dan because the Danites from the Shephelah area came up here because the area was so dry and arid, and they took over the city and named it Dan after their the father of their heritage. So again, Tel Dan, and one of the oldest gates found in historical. Okay, this is the second gate, not as old as the first gate that we saw. That's more east. This is the entrance to the gate to Dan from the time of the Israelite kingdom. We can read right here, and that's between the time frame, the Israelite period between 1200 and 586 BC, as you can see right there. And you can see this whole area, the way the rocks are made, and it's interesting that you got larger rocks and then filled in with smaller rocks, which is consistent, and then on top of that you got other larger cut stone. As I come over here, what you see here is an altar, and the Bible passage that they give for this, you can see this here, it says, "And he defiled the high places where the priests had burnt incense, and break down the high places of the gates." And this is the high places of the gates, the altar, from 2 Kings 23:8. And this is in the direction of Damascus. And the first earlier gate, that was Canaanite, that was built in the 3,500 to 3,800 years ago. So even later than the time of Abraham. And again, I'm just going to show the general area, as you can see, and up in that area there. Okay, and again, it's the city of Dan. So I'm on the inside of the gate of Dan, and you can see the altar directly in front. And directly to the right of where I'm pointing at of the gate is 5 standing stones, and 5 standing stones on the inside of the gate. This could possibly represent the 10 northern tribes of northern Israel. This is also where judges were appointed at the city gates to act as guardians of the city. The gates represented the barriers between chaos on the outside of and order on the inside. And you can see the outside surrounding area. So many strangers and foreigners would pass this way. And the gate area is open also to God. So, normally this would be uncovered, no trees. And the reason for the standing altars would represent God's guidance in offering judgment. The judgment is also, at the city gates, is made public because all judgment affects the community and the society of the city, so it would never be hidden. And God's judgment is also not hidden. In the book of Psalms, the gate is where God dwells and protects the city. Also, in the book of Ruth, it says Boaz went up to the gate and he took 10 men of the elders of the city and he said, "Sit down here," and they sat down. And that's from Ruth 4:1-2. And in the book of Samuel, it says, "And the king arose and sat in the gate, and all the people came before the king." 2 Samuel 19:8. And then Job, one more verse, Job 29 verse 7 says, "And Job takes his seat at the gate and at the city square." And you'll notice that this area, all the way around, is in a square. So the city square would be this area, and the gate would be directly facing north towards Damascus. I am currently on the Tel Dan, looking west, and this is right here is the sacred precinct. Following the division of the kingdom of Solomon in 930 BCE, Jeroboam, son of Nebat, established a cult at Dan as an alternative to the one at the Temple of Jerusalem. He placed a golden calf in the city and built a house of high places. In the Hellenistic period, the cultic precinct was surrounded by a wall that is visible to this day. Bilingual, that means Greek and Aramaic, inscription found at the site attests to the sacredness of this precinct. To the right, in this area here, in this direction, that would have been the bema, or the high place, past that wall on the right. And in this area where that guy is, that would be the, or actually, I'm sorry, to his left, those would be the altar chambers and also the priestly chambers. So that would be in this area. And this whole wall that's here is from the Hellenistic period. It's not part of this original that Jeroboam had built. And the sacred precinct it is also in the time of Ahab, which is past this area. So as I come this way, you notice this here, this area, and this is quoting from 1 Kings 12:32-33. It says, "And Jeroboam ordained a feast, and he offered upon the altar, sacrificing unto the calves, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel, and he offered upon the altar with burnt incense." And the calf that they found a calf at Dothan, and we often think of this calf as being very large, but it was actually 7 inches by 5 inches. So relatively small area. And the calves represent Baal, which is a very early god that was represented by different names, but pretty much by the calf or the bull. And he's either depicted as riding the bull or being the bull. And Jeroboam put one of the bulls here, or calves, in Dan, and he put the other one in Bethel. And so it represents the god striding both areas to bless that land. As I walk over through the gate passage, you'll notice this 4-horned reproduction frame. It was actually much smaller, but this is very similar to the one that we saw earlier at Beshmesh. And this also here is actually the base of the altar. And you notice the size compared to the one that they actually construct here. But this is actually probably the size of it. And it actually probably went about as high as that is. And these here are the steps that would go up to the altar. And as I come along to this place here, just want to walk through this gate. And as I walk across, you can see the size of this whole temple area. And I'm walking up the stairs, and this is towards the east. And this is the border in this area, is the border of Lebanon. You can't really see it, but that would be the Lebanon border over there. And again, as I come along here, the whole temple area that Jeroboam would have constructed during the time of Kings that was written. So where I'm at right now is the Tel Dan, and I'm looking at the spring of Dan. And the outflow of this water is about 22 liters per minute. And it's one of the tributaries that feeds the Jordan River. So it's one of the 4 headwaters. And I wanted to show this area. This is, if you notice, it's quite different than the desert area of the rest of Israel. Oak trees, rhododendrons. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. It looks like the woods of the Northeast or North Carolina. Again, this is a spring, so you notice it's not a river. And we have a seating area here, or steps. But again, this is north of the Sea of Galilee, in the area of Dan, and this is the spring of Dan. Now, hopefully you can hear me, but this is a little further down from the springs of Dan, in Tel Dan area, north of Sea of Galilee. But you can see that all the creeks and springs and everything come through here, and this all feeds into the Jordan River. So you can see it's quite turbulent, and white water, and you notice lots of the green brush, trees. So very beautiful area. Again, this is one of the 4 headwaters of the Jordan River. So again, I'm at the Tel Dan. We're walking back to the bus. This is all from the different springs and creeks and everything that consolidates into one watered area. This is one of the 4 sources of water for the Jordan River. And you can see it's quite turbulent for this area, but it's quite interesting because the Jordan River doesn't even run half this speed, and you got 4 of these going into it. But then again, although this water goes into the Sea of Galilee first, and then from the Sea of Galilee it combines back into the Jordan River, which is a lot more slower and a smaller river than the river that's up north past the Sea of Galilee.